Emrenimo, Potokasemu, Yakase, a lawyer for Entiminian, Mumian for you, immigration in Semina, and got Dynamo, Fortwell solicitors, Emrenimo could draw for, so what's now, Ombe Wauman Sakan Crata, Naswedia Donsua, a Yomokokra, a Banini Passitium, any Echumamun Sendia, Omutimwakotenipa, Omuamre, the many pepia, Nadia Nika Omupone said, no consultation fee.
Fortwell Solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell Solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell Solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ, nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green, Overground, Hornsey Station, buses 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
Opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday beyond so your Milton Keynes.
Fortwell Solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, John Sewa, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiya Basa, is not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with John Sewa.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Yo, Ghana for you want English approach my muha. Ya swedi. Yenya emrenim for when a quarter wo emrenimo. Potokas emu yakase a lawyer for entimini no mumian for immigration in Semina and got Dynamo. Fortwell solicitors emrenim could draw for. So what's na hache? Ombe Wauman Sakan Crata. Naswedia Donsua, a Yomokokra, a Banini Passitium, any Echumamun Sendia, Omutimwakotenipa, Omuamre, the many pepia. Nadia Nika Omupone said, no consultation fee.
Fortwell Solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fortwell Solicitors also deals with long residence and human rights applications outside the immigration rules. Don't wait till last minute. Fortwell Solicitors is located at
Unit 1, ground floor, Katrina House, 58 Clarendon Road, London, N80DJ, nearest tube station, Tempark Lane and Wood Green, Overground, Hornsey Station, buses 41 to Archway and 144 to Maswa Hill. For more info, call 0203 3257 030. Call our 24-hour line on 0754 8701 011. Website www.fortwellsolicitors.com.
Opening hours Monday to Friday 9:30 to 5:30 p.m.
Thursday beyond so your Milton Keynes.
Fortwell Solicitors is regulated by SRA.
Fortwell Solicitors.
Abusiafo yɛde dwumadie foforɔ ɛbrɛ mu wɔ GN Radio. Your friend of worship and inspiration every Sunday evening between the hours of 7 and 9 p.m. Daniel Kweku Datson, and Amanda Ofori. It is Ajumedie Ebro. Make sure that you tune in. It's going to be an awesome moment of worship, God's word, conversation, gospel celebrity interviews, Bible knowledge, and what have you. And also your comments. I want to hear from you, your testimonies, what inspires you, and a lot more. Make sure say on Mrs. our program every Sunday evening at GN Radio. Worship and inspiration. Your weekly inspiration starts from here.
Welcome back to the Breakfast Show. If you just tuned in, we've just been talking about Liz Truss, as she's been appointed as the new Prime Minister. How do you think she will fare? She's got her work cut out, simply because the country right now is in serious economic crisis, I can put it, because if you look at the energy bills rising, if you look at what's happening with the NHS, and we're about to go into winter, inflation. So she's got her work cut out for her. We spoke to Priscilla Nwigbo, a broadcaster and also a political analyst. Now, before we bring you other stories trending across the continent of Africa, let me remind you, okay, that I would like to hear from you. We'll open the phone lines, okay, just a bit after 9 o'clock. But in the meantime, I welcome your text messages. As always, I want to hear your take on what we've been discussing so far. The numbers you need is 0778 793 9958. 0778 793 9958. Send your text messages now. And then as and when we do activate the phone lines, the number you need to call is 0203 735 8820. So do make notes, okay? 0203 735 8820. Welcome back to the program. Keep your thoughts and comments coming in. I will read them out very, very soon. Today is Wednesday, the 7th of September, 2022. Actually, as I was coming in today, okay, so we're in such a beautiful complex here, okay, right in the heart of South London. Funny enough, I saw Christmas trees outside the office. Christmas trees. It is the 7th of September and people are already rushing in Christmas trees. I mean, look, anything to bring some kind of life to the office environment, thumbs up. The question I'm asking today is that, is the fight against corruption beyond African leaders? You know, this has sparked the debate or brought up the discussion again, simply because a few days ago, the US administration placed sanctions against 3 government officials from Liberia. And these allegations, the corruption allegations, are very, very serious, to the point where, you know, the chief of staff is being accused of using his position to take kickbacks. The attorney general too is involved in this whole corruption allegation. So I'm asking, it's a simple question: is the fight against corruption beyond African leaders? Because let's not kid ourselves. It's very rampant across the continent of Africa. And if I'm not mistaken, I think all the way back in 2016 or 2017, where the former Prime Minister, David Cameron, I think probably 2015, right, said that, Nigeria is fantastically corrupt. And before anybody comes to bite my head off, okay, let's just make it clear that corruption is not only peculiar to Africa. However, we cannot hide the fact that it's very rampant in Africa. Take is that corruption in African countries hinders economic, political, and social development. It's a massive barrier to economic growth, also to good governance and basic freedom. And the freedom I'm talking about here is freedom of speech of citizens, right to hold government to account. I don't need to go any further. I mean, I'm sure we have this discussion all the time, the discussion about corruption. I just want to flip it on its head, because maybe we can come to a consensus, can't we? If we agree or understand that maybe this whole fight, the so-called fight against corruption, is actually something that no government is able to tackle or win. It's the fight against corruption beyond African leaders. We're sticking to African leaders because we are Africans, and every single day we talk about corruption. Okay, how endemic across the continent it is. Most of the countries that have experienced coup d'etats where governments have been overthrown, one of the main reason is corruption. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk more. This is GN Radio Morning Breakfast Show with myself, Jones Ewa. Today we're here till 11 o'clock. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
You are listening
as we
to
know it has
GN
changed,
Radio
and so have the
UK.
issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Ewa, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiya Basa is not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with Johnson Wa.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Welcome back. Welcome back to the show. Good morning. If you just tune in, welcome back. This is GN Radio, the breakfast show with myself, Jones Ewa. We're here till 11 a.m. Keep your thoughts and comments coming in. The numbers you need are 0203-735-8820 or 0203-286-0185. Alternatively, you can call 0778-793-9958. The phone lines are open. So do feel free to call to talk about some of the stories we've already covered. Okay, so do call. I want to hear your views on what we've spoken of, and then later on the show, I will be speaking to Dr. Alistair Soyode. He is the founder of Ben TV. I'm sure you're all aware of Ben TV. Brought us fantastic shows here in the UK. We'll be speaking to him exclusively very, very soon. All right, now it is exciting time, isn't it? In as much as we're going through this hardship, everyone is feeling the pinch. Everyone, I can't say everyone. Some people are probably sitting on thousands of pounds somewhere, and they're okay. All right. So they're probably not feeling the pinch, but the majority of households are feeling the pinch. Earlier, I was asking, what do you think of Boris Johnson? You think we've seen the last of Boris Johnson, or he would definitely make a comeback? Out goes Boris Johnson, in comes Liz Truss. And it's interesting, if you look at Liz Truss's cabinet, and where it's been dubbed that she surrounded herself, okay, with allies. She's given the top cabinet position to her allies. Does this seem familiar? Does it look familiar? I mean, one argument will be, what do you expect? Do you expect her to surround herself with her enemies, people that don't support her? But on the flip side of the coin, you can also argue that we know there's a division within the Conservative Party, especially if you look at the numbers, the number of votes both candidates received, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss. So to try and unite the party, as Mr. Boris Johnson was saying, one would have assumed that she would have also included, some of the supporters of Rishi Sunak in her cabinet. But no, she totally, gone with the people that they supported her and her friends. And politics is a very, 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 very on, very, very on characteristic game, very unpredictable. Your friends today could be your enemy tomorrow. Your enemy today could be your friend, but she's decided to just stick with the people that she trusts and knows that they will support her. What does this say? Does this give us the impression that her leadership will be totally different to that of Boris Johnson? Now, yesterday, good morning, Priscilla, if you're listening, good morning to you. I appeared on Priscilla's show. She's got a show on Channel 7. It was live. It's on Channel 7, right? Every Tuesdays at 7 p.m. And we were talking about Liz Truss. I mean, we spoke about other things, the cost of living crisis and everything. And when it got to Liz Truss, and by that time, we're still waiting to see who the cabinet ministers will be. And I said, okay, and this is just my thinking, right? We all know Liz Truss, while she was in university, she was a staunch liberal Democrat. And I just find it very amusing, confusing, to the fact that she's gone from one extreme to the other. A far left, straight to far right. It's just unheard of. It's mind-boggling. I think it says a lot about her character. Then she was a staunch Remainer during Brexit, the referendum. She was a Remainer. She said it and is on record that coming out of the European Union would be disastrous for the United Kingdom. Then she became a staunch Brexiteer. And now she is the Prime Minister. And I just find it difficult to believe that, if you hold such ideology as a liberal Democrat, I find it difficult to just go straight. Under normal circumstances, you probably shift from liberal Democrats to Labour, wouldn't it? And apparently, both her parents are Labour supporters, or as a Lib Dem. Anyway, one of them, right? So we'll see what's actually going to transpire. And of course, many people have said a lot of things about her. We see how she will handle things. I think the first 18 months would be really, really important. Also, she's the first prime minister to appoint a black person as the exchequer, as the chancellor. She is the first prime minister. So under her tenure, we now have a black man, Kwesi Kwarteng, a Ghanaian, or a British Ghanaian. And of course, the criticism have already begun. The fact that there's the argument that he's boring, nothing exciting. They don't think he'll be able to make decisions, and he will more or less be in agreement with Liz Truss. And as an exchequer, you need to have a backbone. I mean, the list goes on. So we wait. We wait to see what's going to happen. What do you think of Liz Truss so far for what you've seen? She said that one of her main goal is to sort out the NHS, and of course to put huge sums of money to tackle the energy crisis, the cost of living. So far, what do you make of Liz Truss? From what has been said about her from, her friends and her colleagues, she appears to be somebody that likes to get the work done. She doesn't talk too much. She just goes straight to the point to get the work done. It's interesting. She will appear at Prime Minister's Questions today. So all ears and eyes will be glued to the radio and TV to see how she performs today. And I know I'm going in a little bit, but it's interesting times, right, that we're witnessing right now. And I was thinking this morning, how will Keir Starmer approach PMQs when dealing with Liz Truss? Clearly, Boris Johnson was totally different. Boris Johnson, you could really go at Boris Johnson. I wonder how he will take on Liz Truss. Liz Truss is nothing like Boris Johnson. And, one of the political commentators made this comment today, which I thought, was interesting. He said that Keir Starmer cannot be seen as, cannot take that approach of screaming and shouting, because it will come across as a man bullying a woman. And that will not look good. And I think that's true, because we saw this happen, the first debates between Liz Truss and Rishi Sunak. When Rishi Sunak was just talking over her, didn't let her finish her sentences, he kept interjecting, and it came across really, really bad. So the Labour Party also have work to do. Do you think Liz Truss can really tackle the crisis we're currently facing? Let's hear your take on that. And also, we spoke to Leonard Dodu, I beg your pardon, a Liberian journalist, about the recent case from the U.S. administration as they've placed a sanction on 3 government officials for their involvement in corruption. And that's what we're asking this morning. We're asking this morning, simple question. Messages have been coming in. Keep them coming in, okay? Keep the messages coming in. This morning we're asking, is the fight against corruption beyond African leaders? Is it? 0203-735-8820. And how did the Chinese national, notoriously known for her illegal mining activities in Ghana, made it back to Ghana after being deported? How did she get back? There's a lot of speculations right now, and people are really, really trying to get to the bottom of this particular case. Let's listen to this soundbite. Okay, this is from this was conducted by TV3, the Ghana Immigration Service public relations officer rejects accusation of failure to stop Aisha Huang from re-entering Ghana. And his name is Joseph Armstrong Gold-Allo. So that's what he's saying. That is what he said, because we've all been asking the same question. How on earth somebody that has been deported makes their way back to Ghana? The other day, I think it was yesterday, actually, I came across a message, I think from Gabi Oshidako, saying that, alluding to the fact that even in the UK, you have illegal immigrants who are smuggled into the UK without the knowledge of the state. And which I thought, look, it's preposterous to even utter such ridiculous comments. Okay, but hey, we must, this is democracy we choose to practice. Okay, so we have to listen to his views. Somebody who's a criminal and was deported, surely necessary steps were taken. And I mean, it goes to show that, well, not goes to show, but it raises concerns as to how secure our borders are. When I say our borders, I mean the borders in Ghana, how secure they are. So let's listen to the public relations officer of Ghana Immigration once again.
Question many people are asking is, how on earth did Aisha One manage to sneak herself into the country upon all the numerous borders we have scattered across the country? And she has been living here for at least no less than 3 months. Our checks confirm.
The information I have from our officers is not the 3 months you're talking about, that she came around mid-August and 2nd September. She was intercepted by officers. But when it comes to the borders, and we have not hidden the fact that our borders are porous, especially in the sub-region, and it's not peculiar to the West African sub-region alone, but across the whole world.
So what does the law say? The way she came in, what is likely to happen to her?
That
for the immigration laws.
Yeah, that is an illegal entry. And currently as we speak, national security is handling the issue because of how sensitive it is. And she was taken to court and a remand taken against her. So I believe all the other agencies and AG and everybody will come in to find the appropriate charges to level against her.
But per the immigration rules, what could be?
If she's convicted on the immigration rules, she may go in for about 2 years. That's what the law says.
Per the immigration rules?
Yes.
Is the immigration pressing the charges against her?
That's what I'm saying, that currently we are now building the case because her mode of entry is one that we all want to clarify. Then what she got herself engaged in also will have to be looked into. Then we can build a proper case.
All right. So how she managed to get herself back into the country is what they're trying to find out. Let me read this because I actually posted this on social media as well. So once she was arrested, she appeared to have had a Ghana ID card in her possession. But then the National Identification Authority released a communique to clarify the controversy over the possession of Ghana card by the Chinese woman, Aisha Huang. And this said, the attention of the National Identification Authority has been drawn to mainstream and social media reports and discussion on the arrest in Ghana of a Chinese national, popularly known as Aisha Huang, who was found to be in possession of Ghana card bearing the name Huang N. The NIA wishes to respond to and clarify the situation as follows. 1. Since 2012, our law has required all foreigners permanently resident in Ghana, i.e. for 90 days or longer, who are not diplomats or representatives of international non-government organizations to register for and acquire the national ID card. The card issued to such qualified foreigners is the non-citizen identity card. And is so captioned in red lettering above the card holder's personal details. This distinguishing information in red does not appear on the Ghana card meant for Ghanaian citizens. Sample images of the citizens and non-citizens cards are attached. So clearly the National Identification Authority have clarified that the card that was in her possession is actually not a Ghana card, but this is a card that is required for all foreigners to obtain. So that is that sorted. Today, the Media Coalition Against Galamsey is calling for the prosecution of persons who assisted the woman known as the Galamsey Queen, Aisha Huang, to return to the country. The convener of the coalition, Dr. Kenneth Ashigbe, believes that political and non-political figures are likely to be complicit in her return and subsequent engagement in illegal mining. After the rearrest of Aisha, she was deported in 2018 for illegal mining. Dr. Ashigbe believes that a detailed probe into the matter is critical to the fight against illegal mining. And I quote the doctor saying that Aisha Huang is not coming alone, There are very powerful people who will be aiding her to come. And it is important that we find out the people behind it. He also said we must make sure we exact the maximum punishment to the person culpable. In any endeavor of killing a serpent, if you don't cut the head off, it will come back at you. So we need to deal with this at the root of it. Now, interesting. Yesterday I texted Kofi Ali. Kofi, good morning. I know you're listening. Kofi said that his attention were rather drawn elsewhere, of which I thanked him for. This morning he sent a text message. Kofi is saying that Aisha was brought back to Ghana after deportation by the chiefs, who are the organizers of the Galamsey. These powerful chiefs got her the Ghana card. Why are you blaming the poor civil servants for their obedience to the mafia gods? You have chosen to ignore the root cause of the problem out of your fear for tribal Galamsey terrorists. And you are beating about the bush, cowards and hypocrites. Okay, for once, I'm not a coward. 2, neither am I a hypocrite. And 3, regardless of who's in charge, Kofi, I think it was the president that told us not to be spectators, right? So the onus is on every individual who may have come across this woman, knowing full well that she was deported and somehow appeared back in the country. If you happen to come across her and report, you should have reported her. But one thing I do agree with you is the fact that, the so-called big men, the chiefs, as you put it, probably behind this. And I mean, look, I don't disagree with you, because I think even it was President Mahama, the former president, that said this. He said this out in the open. And I think Otumfo Asante also alluded to the fact that, this whole Galamsey thing, some chiefs are behind it. So here we go. We have a situation where, per the constitution, the chiefs are not supposed to interfere with the matters of politics in Ghana. Neither would the politicians interfere with the matters of the chiefs. So here we go. At some point, this was going to happen. Our founding fathers who drafted the constitution, or who came to this agreement, something of this nature would definitely happen. Something that will both politicians and the chiefs will have interest. And it's bound to happen. Okay, let's take the caller. Hello, good morning.
Morning, this is Kofi.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, good morning.
This is Kofi Ali.
Good morning, Kofi. How are you, sir?
I'm fine. Actually, my text was not directed at you as a person.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I'll take it back, sir.
It's a generic message I sent.
Okay.
As you are on my list, technically it gets to you.
Okay.
Yes, but what I said, probably you've just said it all.
Yeah.
And what do you call them? There was another person who you said is calling for investigation.
Yes.
And let's see how the investigation will go. I mean, it's a serious concern and it's a serious issue. Like I said to you yesterday, from what you just read earlier, if you had gone a little bit on the document before you, you will notice that non-Ghanaian nationals will have to pay $120 to get this ID card, and $60 annually for the ID card renewal. Is that not true?
Yeah.
The question we are asking, being the victim of this same thing while I was a teacher in the Gambia. Yes, I was a victim of this same thing. The West African nationals who are ECOWAS citizens, are they going to be treated as, because technically we can call them foreigners?
They are foreigners because they're non-Ghanaians, yes.
But are they just a foreigner like the Chinese in Ghana, or the Americans in Ghana, or the British in Ghana, or the EU citizens in Ghana? Or they will have an exemptions? Have we asked this question?
Well, I would say that they will probably fall under the same category as foreign nationals.
Then, do you know that if you go to Ghana, there are two queues when you are entering the airport, when you are at the airport.
Yes.
One for ECOWAS citizens, one for Ghanaian nationals, and there's another one for foreign nationals, those who are not from ECOWAS. You agree with me? And the ID card we are talking about, on it is written the ECOWAS identity card. I don't know whether you have one.
No, not yet, no.
I've got one. And if you check even the one issued to this everyone, they wrote ECOWAS, not Ghana identity card, ECOWAS identity card. It means this particular ID card, the versions of it are rolled out across all West African countries. So it's not that Ghana sat down and designed the card. It's ECOWAS. It was done with ECOWAS in mind. And all Ghanaians now hold ECOWAS passport. I don't know whether you're aware of that.
Yes.
You will see they write ECOWAS on top, under the right Republic of Ghana. Or ECOWAS passport under Republic of Sierra Leone. You understand? So if we are all holding the same passport, do we need God to come from heaven to tell us that we are no more as divided as we thought we are? This is the case we are making here. If they are going to treat the ECOWAS citizen as if it's from Russia, then what is the point of being in ECOWAS? You say we can come there free of charge. Is that not true?
Yeah.
And we are there as ECOWAS, and we all agree freedom of movement of goods, what they call it, capital and labor. We all agree. So people will move as they like. Didn't we all agree on that?
Yeah.
Then we don't even need visa to go to all these things, but the Chinese man needs visa to come to Ghana.
Yeah, sure.
The Gambian don't need visa to come to. So why do we need God to come from heaven and come and tell us that we are doing this particular one wrong? So Ghanaians in Senegal, Ghanaians in Mali, Ghanaians in Nigeria, they will have to pay the same $70, $120 to get the same ID card. Why Ghanaians in Ghana are not paying anything to get the ID card? How sensible is that one? Can you see our argument?
I get your argument, Kofi. I get your argument, but I want to draw you to your text message, what you mentioned about the Chiefs, because yes, even the doctor that who's the head for the Media Coalition Against Galamsey, calling for the prosecution of the people who aided this young lady, the Chinese national, back into the country. Even he himself knows that this is going to be difficult, Kofi. And again, as I made mention earlier on, that politicians don't get involved in affairs of chiefs, and chiefs don't get involved in affairs of politicians. But we do get some chiefs who do get involved in affairs of politicians. Do you think that any justice will be served in terms of people who aided her back into the country?
You mean aiding and abetting corruption? Are you talking about aiding and abetting corruption? When you say politicians don't get involved in the business of chiefs, what we are failing to realize that chiefs are politicians.
Yes, of course, but we have to take it by what the Constitution says.
A politician is a politician. Why are we separating politicians?
We're told to separate both institutions.
The Constitution tried to separate them.
Yes.
And it turned out that you can't separate them. You see, you can remove the queen and her family, you understand,
right,
from the business of politics, because it's just a small group and you can know them and everybody can. Why are people complaining about Charles talking about certain things? Do you know all the problem Prince Charles is having? Because his language sometimes is political, and the politicians don't want him to be involved.
Of course, and he writes letters and everything, yes.
So everyone has got their role. You understand? In fact, that thing is becoming a problem of whether he even becomes a king in this country or not, the head of state. Can you see? Good. So we should learn from these people that those two don't work together. These chiefs are politicians. They are actively participating. They are closing down radio stations. Didn't you see them?
Yes, they did. Yeah.
What is the job of the Ghana Media Commission? Is it not to monitor the
regulators.
And then withdraw license and close down radio and TV stations? Is that not the Now the chiefs are those doing it. So So these monsters, you can't keep a mafia in a community and also keep a politician in a community. The two are the same. Do you understand?
Yeah,
one
absolutely.
is a terrorist, the other one went to get his power by the mandate of the people directly through the ballot box. While the other one got his mandate by terror. But he had a mandate. He's sitting down there. And he will decide what happened in the community.
What do you mean by terror, sir?
Do you know that Ghanaians fear these chiefs?
Yes, they do. Yes.
Did you see the people they line up in front of? They were shaking.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we live in a country where those we elect, we can tell them what we like, and those we don't even know God where they come from? Most of them were armed robbers before. Now they call themselves chiefs and they call us their subjects. Umaru Baba Isa, do you know him?
Heard the name, yes.
Umaru Baba, that nasty man. I've always told him, he called me his subject. And I will take that nonsense from, because we are a Republic of Ghana. We are not the Kingdom of Ghana. So you see, this is the problem Kwame Nkrumah had with these people.
Yeah. And
yes,
that's
and
probably why he took a lot of powers away from the chiefs.
They don't have any power. They don't have any power. They are just bandits in the community. You see, we are just scared of them. You understand? Somebody has been banned from Go to Kumasi. Have you heard that one?
Yeah. But then, Kofi, I know we're slightly veering off topic, but obviously this just comes back to the issue of, this whole culture and traditions versus the nation state. And, it's interesting as, you watch Ghanaians, because I remember during the lockdown when the government issued a statement saying that people need to
have
stay.
some people going to the sea.
Right. But then when a chief gave an order for everyone to stay put, everybody adhered to the instructions of the chief.
You see, the problem we have is that those we are electing as politicians, you understand, the chiefs are too powerful for them.
Yeah.
Because remember, the chief doesn't need any election. All he needs to do is to grow within a kind of dark system and bully everyone. And before you know, he's their leader. And before you know, they impose him on everyone in the community. Can you see? Good. Now, but the politician is someone we all know. We are free to do anything with this. We change them. And you can't even campaign in Ghana if a chief doesn't allow you to come to the community. Are you aware of that?
Of course. You have to, every time you go to a village, you have to pay a courtesy
to the chief.
Call. Yeah, courtesy call to the chief.
Before you go and do your campaign.
Absolutely.
And then where are we running? Darkness and day at the same time?
Well, that is a whole topic for another day, Kofi, that we have to give a lot of time to.
You see, we cannot. The world is so complicated. Modernity is in front of us. And we are still living. Jesus said you can't have, an old wine. Is it a new wine in an old skin?
Bottle.
Do you remember?
Yes.
This is where we are. We have brought the past into the future. And the future is here. We are looking. You go and look at Ghanaians. They are like slaves.
But let me just drop this in before I let you go, Kofi. Many people are not opposed to modernity. However, people hold on to their traditions and norms as their identity.
Remember, the tradition is just an established way of doing things. So that is tradition. Like independent of Ghana, we celebrate it every year like Christmas. It's a tradition.
Yeah.
Christmas is a tradition of the Christians.
Can
you see?
Yeah.
So when we are using the word tradition, just as we do with culture, to animals, you understand, culture and tradition, you understand, because culture creates the tradition. The tradition, you understand, as the culture itself, is like animal skin. You know animal skin? It comes with hair. It never changes, isn't it?
Right.
With the modern man, culture is like clothes. You wear it when you like. You remove it when it's not working for you. And change it. Because if we don't change this thing, we can't catch up.
I agree. But then, the debate on the other side is, we had our traditions. Modernity was brought to us. It wasn't a free of choice for us to accept it. It was shoved down our throat. And yes, and this is the other side of the argument, Kofi.
No.
It was imposed on us.
I don't think they have any argument. I'm coming. Jones, you.
Yes.
What did anyone, you as a human being, one Ghanaian?
Obviously, we're speaking about historical events.
No. When we are talking, we think we are talking about some people. No, we are talking about ourselves. You as a person, are you telling me somebody imposed the wearing of suit on you?
No one imposed. I mean,
so when are you talking about? So you are saying that this government, we have a court and everything we have, which we don't have before the arrival of the colonizers. Are you saying it's not good? The court and everything, so it's imposed on us. We won't follow. We won't go to court. We'll beat our women in the bush and tie them to the stick.
On this particular subject, I think it's right to produce or provide both arguments, and this is an ongoing debate, Kofi, as you're aware, because there are people that are claiming that, look, if we keep going down this route,
you see,
forever.
Those who are making the argument are those who are benefiting from it. Anything you have in the world has its pros and cons, and there will be even when there was slave trade going on, there are slaves that were elevated and they were benefiting from it, who are also slaves, black.
Of course.
Can you see? And so in any situation, you have pros and cons. That's why we have democracy. But when these terrorists have really told us we can't open our mouth again, then how can we even tell them that we don't even want them anymore? Must we all, because our ancestors eat kenke by the roadside and go to toilet by the sea? That is what we should do for the rest of our life in the name of culture and tradition, because we did it before.
That is our identity. However,
who is identity, my friend? That is not identity.
Hold on, listen, and this is why I'm saying that we have to try and present both arguments. You see, the thing is, this is my take on this, Kofi, and sometimes it's confusing, but just hear me out for a brief moment, okay? Within the society, Kofi will say, I'm Gan, I'm Ashanti, I'm Fanti, whatever. When we come outside our small society to the international stage, we identify ourselves as Ghanaians.
Thank you.
Right. So in that instance, right, it just gets complicated. It becomes complex because on an international scale stage, you identify yourself as a Ghanaian. What is Ghanaian? What is a Ghanaian? Until you meet somebody or you want to explain further and you say, okay, all right, I'm a Ghanaian, but this is the tribe, this is my tribe, this is my clan.
You see, can I come in?
This
is a new generation.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a time there was no Ghana. I think we are not realizing that there was a time, once upon a time, there was no Ghana, there was no Gold Coast. There were the tribes.
Yes.
You understand me? And those tribes were there for centuries, more than you can imagine, because by their way of doing things, you can see that is grounded, group by group, competing with each other. You understand?
Yeah.
Then Ghana was formed. When Ghana was formed, the people who were there are those that were used. In some places like Australia, Canada, and so on, and America, they kill all of them, and then they brought people from somewhere, from a civilized society, with a different culture. Do you understand? Now, in our case, it's the same people who are supposed to migrate from being tribal people to Ghanaians.
But Kofi, I really don't want to interject, but again, when you hit certain keywords, it just the light bulbs goes in my head. Again, the word is civilized. I mean, who defines civilization? What is uncivilized? Hold on. But let me finish, Kofi. Hold on. Because the quote unquote civilization that they brought was at the, people were at the mercies of such gruesome acts. They murdered people. People were killed. Women, children, men. Lands were taken. So to say that they brought civilization, that in itself is questionable.
I think you are making this in a bit complicated.
Oh, I'm not.
Maybe I should have. Let me say it this way, because I don't want that. We don't have time.
No, we
don't.
Are
listeners, and I know time is not on your side too. So don't make it complicated. They brought another way of life. Maybe let me use that one. And that new way of life now against the old way of life. It's like you are changing old currency and new currency. Do you understand? There was a currency before, then the government realized that there's a problem, or whether the government realized or whatever, another currency came into the show. And the new currency is doing better than the old currency. Can you see?
There wasn't a problem, Kofi. It was a conquest. There wasn't a problem. There wasn't a problem. It was.
If you are good, would they where the Chinese were not there, were they conquered? Were the Russians not there, were they conquered? They came to conquer you and took you away like animals in chains. And you are not even learning any lesson. Look, your culture is supposed to protect you. That is why they want to bring the juju, and they were threatening themselves with juju. When these guys came, they kicked the juju, they brought all the juju into their museums. We are telling in life, when somebody uses gun to threaten you, do you understand? And you are holding a stick, a wise person will look for a way to get the gun because that gun is powerful than the stick.
Absolutely.
Do you understand? Both gun and stick are for self-defense. Is that not true?
Of course.
Primarily, they serve the same purpose. A car and a donkey, they serve the same purpose. It's for transportation. Then somebody is taking advantage of you. You are on your knees, as we are in Ghana. Even with the modern government, we are on our knees. I don't know when you left Ghana left. You see children on the street like rats.
Yes, that's
so
true.
We are at the brink. Every day we come back to these people. Yes, they conquered, but we come to beg them every day for money. We are going to IMF. They are even bluffing to us. You are aware of that?
Yes.
If we take their way of life, if you go and look at somebody who spent all his life in Malata Market, and someone who went to this modern school that these people brought, which of them has a better future? So the kids make up for themselves. You know, even Otunfo, that big one, he speaks English better than you can imagine.
Of course.
He wears suits, you know that?
Yeah, of course.
So what are we talking about?
I mean, listen, Kofi, obviously, you know, my job here is to also present the other side of the argument. And, you know, I made the same argument to somebody, you know, who was purely against modernity. And I said, you know, he's taken an entrenched position about culture and traditions and norms. And I sent him a picture, 2 pictures of Otumfo, one in the cultural attire and another in suit. And
if he's going to any serious place, he wears suits.
All right, Kofi.
When he's going to bully people, he wears that his clothes. Now wait. Here. Now let me quickly do something here.
Quickly, because we run out of time.
Quickly, please let me land. It is our destiny, and it's our business. And what we are seeing now happening in Ghana, you understand, this modern culture is being thrown away, and the only one now is prevailing. In fact, no more Ghana. What we have now is a version of Ashanti Kingdom expanded. Do you understand? And we need to be careful where we are going. That's all I will say. We need to be. It's not. Why are we going backward when everybody? We are racing to the bottom when everybody is racing to the top. The best child you have in the world today is a child that has gone to a school and learned these people's culture. It's not that our own. You understand? Wow. Our children are leaving universities, no job. Are you aware of that?
Absolutely.
In millions, so the guys are criminals and prostitutes. They're everywhere.
But then, would you blame, you know, the culture and the traditions for that old modernity? Because this is under modernity. This is under, you know, the
you see. The state is supposed to modernize us, isn't it?
Yes.
And the head of state is the president. Yes. Is that not true? But the president is scared of the chief, and the chief and his thousands of other sub-chiefs, they are all over the town. So how do you expect members? Do you know that when this media something happened, right?
Yeah.
Abu Jinapo, is it Jinapo, one of the Jina, and the Ashanti regional minister, they went to the chiefs quickly in the midnight and begged them that whatever they are going to do, they shouldn't do it. They begged them, they are mercy.
You're talking about ODK.
ODK case. Yeah. They beg them not to do what? Why do you have a country with terrorists that you go about begging every day? The politicians are scared of them. Do you understand me?
I get your point, Kofi.
If the politicians are scared of them, then we shall do what they want, not what our politicians want.
Okay, Kofi, thank you very much. You know, it's always a pleasure talking to you. I had to bring our conversation to an end just for time reasons, Kofi, because we're about to go on a break. Well, you can also call in 0203-735-8820 or 0778-793-9958. Interesting conversation there with Kofi. We've got 3 messages that I will read out very, very soon. The time now is fast approaching 10 o'clock. Actually, just a few seconds to 10 o'clock. This is GN Radio Breakfast Show with myself, Jones Sewell. We're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube, by the way, so you can also watch the show on there. We're taking a break. We'll be back right after this.
You are listening to GN Radio UK.
This is GN Radio UK.
You're in tune to GN Radio UK.
The world as we know it has changed, and so have the issues affecting our community.
COVID-19 and the geopolitical tensions have really made it abundantly clear that the African continent has to do more to be self-sufficient from an industrial capacity point of view.
Join me, Jones Sewell, on GN Breakfast Show as we look at issues affecting us here in the UK, with a close eye on trending stories across the world.
When we invest from the UK into infrastructure in African countries, that it is absolutely transparent.
With a focus on Ghana's social and political issues.
I mean, it's not about you thinking about, your money, the Sikadiabasa is not what our authorities should be thinking about, or officials, but rather they should think about the nation.
The Breakfast Show with John Sewell.
Monday to Wednesday from 8 a.m. on GN Radio.
Become a successful entrepreneur with Jackie and her professional team. Become a successful entrepreneur. Anase Base. Wami a team of professional teachers of economics, marketing. Ninga omoyebi. So wo pesa wo transform wo life from a youth graduate and a school leaver. Na so wo pesa wo ye entrepreneur. Mon contact Base. Entrepreneur no chere say obi a ebia wa wo business. Ebia wo ye che. But wo pesa wo ye no in a professional way. To say Oprah Winfrey. Anaya Papa Kwame Despite. Base.
Welcome back to the program. If you're just tuning in, I was just speaking to Kofi Ali on the issue of the Chinese woman Aisha Wang, who was deported back in 2017, but miraculously found herself back in Ghana. And there are calls for people who aided her return to Ghana to also be prosecuted. But of course, the mining business is huge, and the people who probably aided her into the country, some people are saying that it is the chiefs that we need to look at, and which then raises the question, the constitution of Ghana has made it such that politicians or the states do not interfere with customary law when it comes to traditional operations. Neither should chiefs get involved with issues of the states. But of course, like Kofi rightly said, there are instances of so many chiefs who have gotten involved with politics. And Kofi also says that chiefs are actually politicians. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, he's not far from the truth, because chiefs are politicians. I mean, if you want to look at the aristocrats' ideology, I wouldn't say ideology, or the concept, that's better. The concept. Some might say that the kingship concept. In effect, they are politicians. Anyone who can be identified as the ruler of a group of people, and because everything is down to negotiations. You have the alpha male, and then you have the subjects. In the nation states, we are the subject. However, the difference is we elect these MPs and the presidents. It's a social contract between the citizens and the state. Whereas when it comes to the chiefs is just through blood, isn't it? Lineage. So nobody has a say as to who rules over them. And this is where the problem is. And, the founding fathers, they're not stupid. I mean, on paper, they're not supposed to clash. But of course, there were going to be a situation where both interests, want to be met, and they will come together to collude together to make sure they're able to meet their interest. And this is what's happening with Galamsey. If you look at the water, I don't even want to talk about the water bodies now, because we all know the impact of illegal mining. Okay, we all know, and we cannot close our eyes and pretend that we don't know. And this is what the problem is. As Kofi describes them as, they having control and people are being scared of them. This is why when Kofi says the politicians are scared of them, this is why. For you to be elected, you need to go to the villages, even towns. You need to go there and to do your campaign. And the chiefs do have authority, do have power, do have influence on the people. So here we are. We've decided to embark on this modernity, the nation state. We're governed by the rule of law, not by the chiefs or kings, right? We're governed by the rule of law. This democratic dispensation that we've embarked on. So everything is by the law, the Constitution. But then, the same Constitution that we've all agreed to abide by, we still need to go and ask permission to go and campaign. For the fear of the king's influence turning against us, we have to make sure we go and see the king. And you cannot, go to the king or a king's palace or kingdom or house empty-handed. And this is where, our traditions and norms clashes with the nation state. I mean, I didn't want to go too much into it with Kofi, because before we realize, we'll probably have diverted from the conversation. But I like this type of conversations because we're able to build upon it. We began with the return of the Chinese national Aisha, who was deported as a result of being involved in criminal activities, as illegal mining. She was deported, but somehow managed to find her way back into the country without any notice, without the immigration services knowing how she got into it. And now there are calls for people who aided her return to also be prosecuted. So we're looking at the root cause of the problem. Who within the Ghanaian society could be so powerful to the point that they can bring this woman back without any government intervention? And who are the people benefiting from this woman's illegal activities on the land in Ghana? Of course, it's the chiefs. Of course, it's the owners of the land. So with Kofi saying that, it's not far from the truth. Okay, it's not far from the truth. And so I'm just giving you, how we've been able to move the conversation on. And how do you deal with the chief? A politician cannot deal with the chief. A politician cannot deal with the chief. So we have a situation where, 21st century, we are in a modern world. During the global pandemic, the president, the commander-in-chief, gave instructions and told everyone to stay put, avoid gathering in busy places, and so on and so forth. People were still out there to the point where the military had to be deployed. The moment a chief spoke that no one should be seen outside, the people obeyed the chief. And this is why it's so difficult, this whole democracy and the traditions and norms or our way of life, some people will put it. This is why it's so difficult. And I mean, I can see, both arguments on both sides. And when Kofi brought up the issue of, not being uncivilized, and the foreigner bringing civilization, you have to question that, because what's the definition of civilization? Civilization they brought was not by negotiations. It was by the gun, the sharing of blood, taken, all in the name of civilization, of modernity. And Kofi has a point. He does have a point. To the people who support modernity, who support democracy, will always say that it is the best way for us to go. But then the next question is, how effective or successful has modernity been for us? Because all the problems we're facing now is not under the old system, it's under the new system, which is supposedly meant to bring prosperity to all. But again, I've said this so many times. I don't blame democracy as such. I don't blame the ideology. Okay, I understand the ideology very, very well. I really do. But it doesn't stop you or hinder the development of a nation. It does not. It's the individual that does. So we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And if you look at, I wouldn't even just pin it down to just Ghana. I think this is across the continent of Africa. It's all over. I mean, the opposition is there to to modernity. It's there. If you go to Nigeria, you have Boko Haram. You have the so-called, now they label them as bandits, who oppose Western ideology, who oppose the nation state. It's there. And then you have others who are pushing for the Western ideology, democracy. And so this fight will always happen. The pendulum will switch one side, but it's not balanced. We cannot find a common ground. And see, this is where the problem is, because if we're really, really going by the rule of law, okay, then this whole corruption saga can easily, if not eradicated, at least halved. If we really want to go by, quote unquote, living under, making the Constitution work. If we really, really want to go back, but I don't think we do. I think we're stuck in our ways. I think we're stuck to, the so-called culture and traditions, because if somebody is corrupt and found to be corrupt, what tends to happen? People go behind closed doors and start begging for mercy. And traditionally, that's what we do. Because listen, as Kofi is saying that the politicians are scared of the chiefs, I don't think necessarily is an argument of being scared, but is a tradition. You have to respect the king, the chief. You have to respect, no matter how, we've adopted a new system. The thing is, you never forget where you came from. Okay, you don't just throw away. Well, which a lot of people have made the argument for us to just forget about that. That wasn't the olden days. That was history. We're now living in the present, and this is how the world is moving, and we need to be able to catch up. It's interesting. Kofi has said it, the chiefs are politicians. All right, let me read some of your messages. This is from Sewa. Sewa is saying, Jones, I totally agree with Kofi Ali. The chiefs are the major problems in Ghana. Talk about the Fulani issues. Who were behind it? I remember I remember President Mahama came out and said some chiefs are behind it. And then the next question is, so if chiefs are behind it and you're fully aware that the chiefs are behind it, why can't the chiefs be brought to justice? This one, you do that, forget it. You you might as well pack up your stuff and just resign, because it will never happen. And of course, so this is where the problem is. So every time we push, we propagate for democracy, and Ghana is a very peaceful and democratic country. I do not doubt that one little bit, but I think that's just on a superficial level. I think if we dig deep, we're more divided than we would like to claim. But the most important thing is we're able to reason as a people, and I don't think that is down to modernity. I don't think that's down to the nation state, the new dispensation that we've embarked on. I think that is down to our cultural and values, where old heads, the wise heads, I would like to call them, can sit down and talk through things and find amicable way of handling situations. All right. You can call in 0203-735-8820 or 077-8793-9958. Keep your text messages coming in as well. All right, this is from John. John is saying, Jones, I totally disagree with Kofi Ali. Like you said, it is our identity. In as much as our identity is important to us, in as much as democracy is important to us, we shouldn't do away with our identity. All right, keep your thoughts and comments coming in. I will read them. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we continue with our discussion. This is GN Radio with myself, Jones. We'll be back right after these small commercials. Welcome back. This is GN Radio, the breakfast show with myself, Jones Ewa. I have a special guest in the studio, and I'll be introducing them very, very soon. But keep your thoughts and comments coming in. If you've just tuned in, okay, we've been discussing reports that came out that the US have actually put sanctions on 3 Liberian government officials for getting involved in corruption. And we're asking this morning is one simple question that we're asking: this issue of corruption. Is the fight against corruption beyond African leaders? And I did make mention of this earlier, that this is not peculiar to Africa. However, we cannot overlook the fact that it is rampant across the continent. Okay, so let's hear your take. And secondly, we were talking about the Chinese national who goes by the name of Aisha Wang, who in 2017 she was deported from Ghana for being involved in illegal mining. And when she was arrested, I mean, the amount of ammunition seized by the police were concerning, I should say, and to the point where a lot of people were pushing for her to be sent to jail. However, she was deported. A few days ago, Monday, we found out that somehow, some way, she managed to find her way back to the country. And now people are pushing for, whoever was involved in aiding her coming back to Ghana to be also prosecuted. And as we spoke to Kofi Ali said, listen, we have to be honest with ourselves. When it comes to mining is not just, any meager thing that the ordinary person can get involved in. The people that actually own the land, custodians of the land, are the chiefs. And as people are calling for people to be prosecuted, they name them as the big men behind this whole ordeal. And per our constitution, the constitution prohibits the state from interfering in customary law and the issues to do with the chiefs, and vice versa. It prohibits chiefs from getting or interfering with issues of the state. And then it brings us to the ongoing debates between our traditions and norms and the nation state, modernity. Because the state is in control. The head of state in Ghana is the commander-in-chief of the entire country, of the army, of the armed forces, and he's the head of state. However, during election times, when the politicians won votes and they travel around the country, the first stop is to go to the king and speak to the king, or seek the chief's acknowledgement, because the chiefs have such influence within the community. And I gave you this example during the COVID-19 pandemic, when the president, Ronaldo, issued a statement telling all Ghanaians to stay put. We had Ghanaians gathering, having parties. The moment the chiefs gave an instruction for people to stay put and no one to be seen outside, everyone adhered to the instructions of the chiefs. So here we are. Our traditions and norms always opposing the nation state. And I mean, I did question, I'm just saying this, so just in case somebody just tuned in and tried to follow the conversation has progressed from the Chinese woman. We're trying to get to the bottom of the issue here. And we have to look at ourselves. And I said this a couple of years ago. The Chinese ambassador to Ghana said one thing. Again, this whole issue about galamsey. Galamsey just means illegal mining. He said a Chinese person cannot land at Kotoka International Airport, right, and know exactly or find his or her way to where to mine, to start gold mining. Clearly, it is the locals that are aiding them into these criminal activities. All right, this is from Michael. Michael saying, good morning, Jones. I totally disagree with Kofi Ali. We cannot throw away our culture and traditions and to take on the so-called modernity. What has modernity actually done for us? Kofi Ali, when you asked him about the current state of Ghana, he couldn't answer it because this is under modernity. So to simply tell us to get away, to do away with our identity, our culture and traditions, I strongly disagree with that. I'm all for democracy, but let's face it, democracy hasn't worked. Okay. And that's the debate, isn't it? That is the debate. Keep your thoughts and comments coming in. Anyway, let's move on. Let's move on. Still keep your texts coming in. I will read them out, okay? But we're slightly moving on with the program at hand. Now then, my next guest in the studio with me right now is Dr. Alistair Soyode. He's the founder of Ben TV. And if I'm right in also saying, introducing you as an entrepreneur, a businessman, and he's achieved a lot of things. To be honest with you, I've met him a lot of times, but I don't think he remembers. But I've met him several times. And every time I've seen him, he's well put together, speaks very well, and he knows exactly what he wants. And he has been championing telling the story, the African story in the diaspora. And this is why platforms like these exist. And I keep saying this, we have to tell our story. I can assure you, the situation that might happen in Nigeria, in Malawi, or in Kenya. Let's take Kenya, for instance, because Kenyans just went to the polls, right? Every article I read pre the elections was just negative publication by the big media outlets. And everyone made a point of reference to Kenya's post-election violence of 2007. Not knowing Kenya have moved on from that, actually written a new constitution. And this is why it's important for us to be able to tell our own story. And this man right here, he's a pioneer and he continues to do so. Without further ado, Dr. Alistair Soyode, thank you very much for coming here on the Breakfast Show. How you doing, sir?
Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow. You look very, very young, I must say.
You know, you used to act and play in sports. So when you tend to have a sport background and still try to maintain a level of trying to say you participate in activities to do with your body.
Mhm.
And not that I train as much as you train, but I am grateful to God for giving me the stature rather.
So what sports are we talking about here?
Well, you do football, bike riding, and just something that just basically keep you a little bit fit. Even if it is at home, you wake up in the morning not feeling too strong, you can do what I always recommend to people, something like jumping jack. Jumping jack, basically, you don't need to go anywhere. You can just lift your body up and stretch your hands in the air and do as much as you can. If you can only do 10, then try and do the 10. If it is 20, then just give something to your body.
I mean, I identify with you because I also have a sporting background. And I keep saying to people that it's like a gift and a curse because you're so used to training that it doesn't leave you. And it's like the moment you stop training, it's like you're missing something. And, you know, this is something that's very important.
How many goals did you score during your time?
Oh, loads of goals. One particular season, I scored over 20 goals.
Ooh.
Yeah, loads of goals. But I don't talk much about it.
Yeah, well, kind of miss out here.
But more on what the reason why we're having this discussion here, because I think it's paramount to us in the diaspora. And also, most importantly, is, we're coming up to Black History Month. And for me, I don't know why it's only that particular month that we talk about our heroes and what has been achieved. But before we come on to what, the work that you've done, what is it? I wanted to know, what was it that actually inspired that move to actually set up a TV network to tell the African story?
Well, thanks. I think as a Black person, and many of us here in the diaspora, which is the right word, and the diasporan community have always contributed to the development of Africa. And so coming from Nigeria with my background and reading quite a lot of story, every Kenyan is Nigerian, every Ghanaian is Nigerian, every Nigerian that is of certain level is Ghanaian, is Kenyan. So basically, what I don't realize is the system, the mainstream, is mixing the nationalities of people from Africa. Why here in the United Kingdom, we have Scottish, we have Welsh, we have Irish. In the case of a Black person, it's just tag one line. And I thought, well, really and truly, not every Black person is a criminal.
Yes.
So we should not have a blanket just because somebody committed a crime here and the story is negative. No, we should identify and create a level playing field for every African. And that is really what nurtured the interest to say, well, could there be a way to promote positive Black role model that we are lacking in the system that are not being known? And from there, trying to do some home investigation research, then find out, well, actually, we do not have a UK-based, concrete, Black-oriented TV station within that period. We do have a radio station back then, which, of course, now is not even there, apart from the likes of this one that we're on. So that created a hunger. But again, it's a hunger that somebody has while not having any knowledge in the media background, because I didn't do media. I don't know nothing about it. But it's just the hunger to say we must find, and there are many. Every day you have it. But when the bad stories and the negative stories emerge, you just feel like almost everybody is consumed in it. Right now, at least, we now have a new prime minister, for example, in the United Kingdom. Yes. The beauty is now you don't end up having people of diversity. You have a Ghanaian with the highest profile as the exchequer. You have a Nigerian as the secretary. You have a Black British Carib. So the system now really now is a reflection of what UK should be, that diversity inclusion. And so for me, was that hunger that created the desire. And luckily enough, we succeeded.
Are you shocked at the way in which there's been a paradigm shift? Because at one particular point, as you did mention, we were all classified as Africans. If you're Kenyan or is African, and to the point where Africa is actually in some parts described as a country, and you have to say, wait, hold on, wait. There are many countries in Africa. If you look at how you started compared to how things have changed now, did you envisage that happening, that transition?
To be honest, no. I think being Black, which people might think is a minority thing, no, because right now on the issue, let's quickly use the template as well in the UK. They just define the people are there coming from this ethnic background based on their strength and merit, rather than because they come from this background. So looking at that period at the time, it's like, wow, this is a big project. But neither do I know actually if I will be on air or in business the following week. Neither do I thought I would be the following month. And of course, it then became a decade without any plan of saying I can sustain it. So if I'm not thinking of being able to sustain the platform for a year, I wasn't really thinking that we can be the point where we are as of today. And over the last 3 years, probably due to the introduction or the arrival of COVID, new technology all emerge, new platform, new application. And right now you can do your live broadcast from anywhere. But the difference is people want to listen to a branded name to know that the information that they're sharing is genuine, not fake stories. So that's the difference. But nobody even from the non-African background can think that technology and the situation where we are today can be. So it's a massive transition, it's an earthquake, things collapse, and neither do you know which side of the coin the building is going to fall onto. So without any doubt, I think even for Africa, really, we should utilize the opportunity that the world has given everyone.
And I mean, one thing in media, especially for ethnic minorities, when we say Africans in particular, I mean, compared to the wider population, it's a very small population. And of course, nobody goes into business to lose money, right? No. We must not overlook at the fact that there is a business element in media. How are you able to sustain Ben TV in particular?
To be honest, if I give you a reason, I'll probably be a little bit wrong in that assumption. Because like I said, when we started, nobody expected it to be there. Yeah. It hasn't been done before. So the point is, they're going to go off. Yeah. It's going to disappear very soon. Back in the days, people that try to go into media within months or years with big capital, they disappear. And at the time as well, in terms of the technology that we're using is when I don't know if you remember the big heavy Motorola phone.
Yeah.
So the technology was that huge, which means you have to spend considerable amount to bring that technology into the system. While right now you can get a camera 400 pounds with 4K lenses, and people know that it's 4K lenses. So the cost at the early days is you're talking of probably £100,000 a month. And so to sustain a platform without really having major investors on board is a miracle. So for me, really, I just say, thank you, Lord, for sustaining it. But every day we are thinking of that day alone rather than next week. The thought of next week is how do we find the bill? How do we find the money? How do we find those that may buy into the belief that they must be on a platform for the Black community? How do we sustain that? And even from the non-ethnic people, businesses, it's like, we have never had a Black platform.
Yes.
So rather than patronizing you heavily, they're patronizing you, believing that they don't want to pay too much in case you disappear, because it has happened before. And neither do they want to pay your value, because it's like, they may not deliver what is needed. But then everybody know that when you're not talking about Black media, Ben is always in the rhythm. He's always on board, and to the glory of God, of course, with our being around, allow us to support all the ethnic media coming from Africa that want to reach out to the diaspora community. So I would say directly, indirectly, almost all the major, at least 80% to 90% of African media having a presence in the UK, we participated somewhere along that line.
I mean, that was your mantra, wasn't it? Bridging the gap.
That's right. Yeah. So bridging the gap for us is very key.
Yeah.
So it's not about us really succeeding, because when we started and when we were there till now, we didn't see it as money making venture. Mm-hmm. We just saw that the Black people, we definitely need an avenue. We need a platform, and the older generation bought into it, even if they don't have the money to spend it. The difference is people know that there's quite a lot of high number of Black people in the UK. But the difference is this high people high worth people or people that own businesses that have big money. Television costs and advertising is not cheap.
Not at all.
And so when you now look at that template, yes, you have the Black people around the corner, you have the Black people far away, but their business is localized within that area. So really television takes you far away from your neighborhood. So a barber shop will just be localized. The restaurant will be localized. The shops are localized. So we don't really, as people, have international big companies back then. And even if you are rich, you're rich within that locality. You might just be doing properties, for example, and have a lot of money, but you still feel like you don't want to own a property. If this is Southeast London, this is Southeast London, and somebody giving you his property in East London, because it's like, I can't transport myself from here to there. I want to be localized. It's later on now that people know, with the internet, you can be anywhere and subscribe and sell product and services. So those are the things that one learn, and you can only learn them on the job and within that situation.
Wow. I mean, I know that you've touched on going into media. It's something that capital intensive, branching into media. It's a lot of money that goes into it, especially being on Sky.
Absolutely. Even today.
Correct. Right. And I mean, how things work in terms of, so we have Bob. So, for listeners, Bob ratings. So Bob is more or less
custom audience research.
Yes. So the viewership, the ratings, and of course, if you're trying to gain advertisement, people want to see your ratings. And a lot of the black television network have really struggled.
Correct.
Because people have said that, Bob tends to manipulate the figures, and which goes against, which affects the black TV network. Was that the same thing you found as well?
I used to say to people that if you want to go to Africa, you just have to find an airline that goes to Africa, be it Ghana, be it Nigeria.
Yes.
So then tell me that I want to go to Ghana and I need a direct flight, and you tell me you want to go through Ethiopian Airline. It doesn't happen. So if you want to reach the black community, then it's Ben, The Voice newspaper, and Choice FM.
Yes.
Yeah, as a radio station.
Yes.
So these are the prominent products and companies that reach this community that you want to reach. So if you're now asking me another question, is like, if you really want to reach the black people, this is the company, television. This is the radio. So I was going on to back, which again, you have to subscribe for and pay money for the service. So for us in those days, the question is, why do I need to pay you when I'm the only one? So here I'm not competing with
nobody else. Yes.
Yeah. So you can say, right, I'm just going to pay you almost £50,000 for you to tell people to advertise with me.
Yeah.
If I only have 10,000 audience, it's just 10,000 because there's no competitor.
Yeah.
Okay. So I don't need to show you that I have 100,000 because I cannot compete with the mainstream TV station that has been going for decades. Yeah. And the mainstream, let's talk about, for example, BBC. BBC is run by your money.
Yeah.
My money, because we pay TV license.
Money, yes.
Yeah. The TV license is yearly, which is almost 100 to 200 pounds, is used to run the BBC. So when people now want to compare Channel 182 to BBC, no, we are totally two different boards, but we provide the same service. Yeah. The BBC provides to everybody. We provide to the African and the diaspora community. And that's what Channel 181, for example, does. Okay. So if you now watch something they spend money on, you give them 100 to 200 pounds yearly to BBC, while you give me no penny. You didn't give me a pound. Okay. So even when you said support so that we sustain this thing, they feel like, no. So, and when people have event in the community, they want you to come down there to cover the event for free. And we're saying, so one, just keep learning and keep telling them, guys, some people thought that Sky pays you. No, you pay Sky more than £100,000 a year, right? For the service to get the EPG number.
Yeah.
So you pay for satellite in the tens of thousands every month. You pay for the Sky number every month. Then you pay for your play out every month. So when people now assume on a net for a decent channel without commissioning any program, spend £50,000 every month. So if you're not able to generate the advertising revenue and your owner or your CEOs are not donating, because most of this you end up donating, contributing millions to inform the black community of things that is happening within their area. So really and truly, as leaders and owners, then you become a philanthropic person who is just giving and people not realizing. And that's why for us, in those early days, we do not show our faces on screen or somewhere to say, oh, this is a former footballer. I used to play in this league. And no, you don't want to do that because the challenge to sustain the platform are heavy. Now we can talk about it because now, of course, we have quite a lot and we have amalgamation, we have coalition, we have affiliation with others. So we can talk a little bit about it.
But one thing, I mean, you mentioned it because, again, we used to think, right, because we saw a couple of stations come up and just disappear. And, during one of our discussion was, can we not able to come together and be able to help one another? Because in doing this, we're able to help one another to sustain
Correct.
channels on the platform.
Yeah.
But that conversation never got far.
I think the reason why sometimes this thing, because yes, indeed, probably a decade ago, when everybody sat down and do the calculation to say, whoa, this is how much we're spending a year. And if we all add up our team, our companies together, we're not generating the amount that we're actually spending. But the difference is you now say, well, you're providing that value added, but at the detrimental of making profit,
Yes.
at the detrimental of minus at the end of the year to your business and to yourself. That is heavy burden. But slowly, people then begin to realize as well that, yes, they could be the reason why you can come together.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, with the with many news avenues now, you can only do really exclusive content that makes people come to you.
Yeah.
Okay, that then begin to drive in the interest. But at the end of the day as well, there is a situation where you trade in the business.
Yeah.
So that again becomes a little bit profitable. But at least I would say with the advent of what we have now seen globally, not just in the United Kingdom, our media strategy has begun to work, whereby now, at least on the Sky platform, for avoidance of doubt, you now have the 3 to 4 normal individual channel congregating and agreeing to work together, which is now what we now have on the 181, which used to be a 182 channel 7. So that then bring in the interest to see we must sustain. If not, then all of us will end up disappearing. As I said, it become the interest of the CEOs and the board to just say it doesn't matter. Let's just continue to help the Black community and provide that content. And you see the difference as well is there are many avenues now for people to watch content.
Yeah.
But as I said, when you watch the mainstream, you can always say, oh, I'm watching this because I trust the information and the content. I'm watching that channel because I believe whatever they say there is more or less correct. And I watch this channel because I know they will give me the information or the type of program that I need, unlike the others that have no base. So what we have is base. What we have our brand. What we have a global name that have existed for decades, and that you can't take away.
Absolutely.
So this is the driving force, and at least now we know we can work together, and still individually on the lower application, lower platform, you are able to reach out to your individuals.
I mean, just listening to you talk, and then you mentioned the fact that, you know, in the early days you're thinking of, okay, the following week we need to generate some funds here to be able to pay the bills, and obviously we've also established that, you know, media is heavy capital intensive venture. And you made mention of the fact that, you know, you bring God's name into it alone. I just wanted to know how important is your faith in everything that you do?
It's absolutely very, very important. I take nothing for granted completely. I do not believe in the longevity of life. So which means I'll be here for 100 years. I don't even want somebody to pray for me to be here for 100 years, because like, what will I be doing? I've already done my role. And so I absolutely believe that whatever happened to a man, especially those who have faith, happen for a reason. And what the best thing that you can do is to examine how you got there. And so for me, on a daily basis, I know my movement is dictated by God. And I speak to people to say sometimes, don't think that you control your life. You don't. So today is my last day. And I like to say that I can just live here, and you know that we have a conversation this morning. People heard my voice. And before I get somewhere, and somebody will say, oh, he's dead. But that is the reality. So I want people to evaluate life deeply, to say every second that you are alive, you're grateful to the Creator because He controls it. So I absolutely believe in faith. I believe in my Lord and Savior, and I trust Him for whatever I achieve. I'm always just grateful. I try not to hold malice. I try not to be too angry. You can be angry, of course, but let it go, because at the end of the day, it only sometimes damage you rather than damage the other person, especially if the other person is not even aware that you're angry or he has done something or she's done something against you. So hold no grudges, because for me, every day is the last day.
Wow. And I know that there are young people listening to us now, and you know the current climate in terms of businesses. We all suffering. We're all experiencing tough times right now, turbulent times right now. I know, as you know, as I post out there that I'll be having you on the platform, and one question was, can you please ask Dr. Alistair, as a young black man who grew up here, I have an idea, business idea, that I can start here. On the other hand, I went back home and I've seen there are challenges back home, but I think I can make an impact back home. Yes, it will take me longer to establish myself back home. I will make it here too, but I'm caught between a rock and a hard place. I really want to come. I really want to go home, but I know the challenges back home, and I'm sure he has probably experienced the same thing. So, if any advice he could share, that could really be helpful.
Well, the first thing is, how long is his patient level? Okay, are you able to sustain that desire, knowing fully well that they're going to try to slow you down? So if you're able to be patient enough to know that, yeah, they will slow me down. They're not slowing down on purpose.
Okay.
It's just the nature of where they are. So if it is in Ghana, if it is in Nigeria, and you think they're slow, they were programmed to behave like that. And that's why sometimes when I look at the African leadership, for example, to say the politicians, that you're looking for them to add value, and suddenly you feel like they're not adding value, then you have to look at who are their parent, not the biological.
Sure.
Who are their mentors?
Yeah.
Who trained them to become politicians? So if the people that they watch, who their leaders are, misbehave, commit a crime, and yet are celebrated, then you know the product will commit a crime and fully knowing that he will be celebrated, or he will go away free without any consequences. So it's the same thing to the people in our community. They do not believe that you're coming in good faith, even though what you're showing them is good for them. But they want to find out, is there an interior motive? And that's the reason why things were slow. So if you are ready for it, then I would definitely say it is more valuable, because the person has decided it's either A or B, and I'm happy either way, but I just don't know where to go.
Yeah.
So I would say then better go home, because now you're imparting your knowledge and your services on your own people, rather than the lesser of your people in the diaspora in the UK. So in the UK, it might take you 6 months to reach a level. In Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and other places might take you more than a year.
Yeah.
But with every day, you're making a positive contribution to that community. And they know that this guy is not going to disappear. Okay.
Yeah.
So then your respect value increases, because they're trying to, it's not just you, anybody, even those who were born and bred in Ghana, will face the same challenge as you coming from the diaspora trying to do the same thing. But when you hit the jackpot, you know you'll be celebrated, and you too know you are celebrating yourself to say, now I have gathered experience. And then you are not empty in your pocket.
Yes.
That is key.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, so long you're not losing. I tend to say, as long as I'm not losing the £10 I invested, I'm grateful. And anything that becomes real profit, that's even better.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Fantastic. Now, I just want to touch on this because I do recall, I came across this, that you were honored at the Presidential Diary magazine 5th anniversary. And I just want to read a bit about this. The award ceremony was part of activities marking 5th year anniversary of the monthly publication dedicated to democracy and good governance of President Muhammadu Buhari. And I just want to touch on the democracy aspect because, you know, as Africans, I'm sure you heard when you came in what I was talking about. There's still an ongoing debate about democracy. And some are arguing that it is, you know, this whole democracy, quote unquote democracy, that has enabled, you know, the lack of development, enabled corruption, all the negative things that is attached
Mm.
to Africa. And I want to hear your take on that.
Well, the truth is, all over Africa, we blame the colonialists or those who colonize us, and I've found it that I do not want to give a reason anymore to. I do not want to fault the colonial masters anymore. For me, they have left the continent in many places and many nations for a very, very long time. We have ended up electing those who now become our leaders, from the president to the local ward chairman. They have never met the colonial masters. Many of them have never, at least those who are in office right now, never. So the question is, who then now is creating the suffering that I'm going through? It has nothing to do with them. So now we have to look at those who are in office. Where are they coming from? And that's the reason why, for example, I mentioned that if they learn the structure and the politics of those who commit crime and go away with it, then you will expect them to do the same thing. There is no honor among African politicians. They move from one party to another constantly, to the point that they are even worse than a footballer. Because a footballer, when he moves, they pay the fees, right? He adds more value to the other team. But African politicians, they are detrimental to the growth of democracy on the African continent. Okay, the global community is all right in front of us on our mobile phone. If you're desperate for information, Google. And I tell people that if you put any politician name in Google and you cannot read anything about him, then just know he's only there for himself. Because that means in business, he's not there. In public service, he's not there. But his name is associated as elected member from social place. And that's the only time you begin to see his name being trended, which means he wasn't in existence before getting into office. So the point now is for African voters to really begin to think of who among this candidate is going to add value to my life. Don't take him based that he's from the same tribe as you. Don't take it because he's from the same religion as you. But in some situation, if I may even use the Nigerian template, is that where you have a northerner or a southerner in office, then by coincidence of choice for justice, equity, then pick from the other side until we Africans believe that we can pick a person, nominate a person, elect a person, appoint a person based on their merit, competence, capacity, and level of knowledge of what you're asking them to do. Without that, the truth is we will continue to suffer, and it has nothing anymore to do with anybody who has ruled me before. I want to ask those who are ruling me, who are leading me, who are in my government across the African continent, what are we doing? We can all talk about the resources on the African continent.
Yes.
Right? In every aspect of life, God has put something on the African continent. Why are we not being able to utilize this thing to negotiate? One thing that you can take away as well is the war in Europe as of today. You can see what it led to. You can see how they accepted their similarity in color and race.
Yes.
Within a short time. Yeah. War is evil, war is bad, yes. But you can see how your own color were treated in the early days.
Yeah.
And it will continue to be so. So likewise, we have to treat our own people with dignity and respect, be it in Ghana, be it in Kenya, be it in Nigeria, be it in South Africa, wherever it is that we find our diversity, we should start from there. Because the more you empower your people, the more your people too will empower you, because then they will make life easy for those who are in leadership position, because you're doing it with accountability. We have seen what happened here in the United Kingdom. Within a period of 2 months, they went through a long process, but they end up picking who happened to be the person with the highest vote. And that's why now we have a new government in the UK. How many places can we say on our own African continent that can do similar thing without too much rancor? And so I will hope that diversity would propel us to a greater thing. And I hope our African leaders one day, those that I imagine, can really turn around the photo of the African continent and start for Africa.
I mean, one time I did a program and we were looking at leadership, especially, across the continent of Africa. And I hate making comparisons, but as you say, the global village, global world is right on our fingertips.
Yes.
And everything is right in front of us. So to suggest that, democracy, yes, democracy across the continent of Africa is relatively still young, right?
Yeah.
Let's say since independence, 60 plus
Yes.
years. Okay, so it's still young. However, the template is right there in front of us.
Yes.
And if you look at where, especially in the UK, because we're based in the UK, leaders in position all come from one tradition. So you have Oxbridge, Eton, Cambridge.
Yeah.
And then you look across to the global south. You have leaders who came, from the bush. When I say bush, military.
Yeah.
Cool. Museveni. Museveni himself will tell you, you want me to return to the bush? Uh-huh. And then it's telling, isn't it? It's telling because right about now, people need strong policies to be able to uplift people from abject poverty. And negotiation, as you mentioned, is a skill.
Yes.
And sometimes this is where we are found wanting. But these are the people that the individual, average Joe, average person in respective countries are pushing for solely based on ethnicity. And this is the problem. And us in the diaspora, I think we have better experience. We've lived it, we've witnessed it.
Yep.
And a lot of us will want to go back. But there's a big barrier trying to penetrate through that. And you're well experienced. How do we overcome that?
You see, the point first is that to overcome the barriers of going back to Africa, which is impossible to say here it is. The line always for me is, are you patient? If you're in a rush, Africa is not in a rush. That is the reason why you have a meeting. When the big guys call for a meeting, they will tell you it's 10 o'clock. And if they are the African way, they will not get there until 11. Now, every leader in Africa or many places has another unseen leader.
Okay. What was that? What was that unseen leader?
The unseen leaders are those that may have put you in your position. And they can call you at any minute. They will not disrupt the schedule of your diary.
Okay.
You might be going out to inspect the new road construction as minister or governor. On the road, something happened. Then you have to park to sort out the problem on the road. Yeah. I have been in places that, yes, you're just traveling somewhere, an accident happened, there's no ambulance. Those that are in the entourage of these people will not have to stop if they feel that they are secure on the road to administer a little help for that. That again disrupt the system and the timetable. So the unseen one are always the one that you have a meeting, political gathering, because Africa is dictated by politics more than the private sector.
Yes.
They will say, ministers coming to Accra, 10 o'clock. Before 7, the whole place is already full. Why is it full? Because majority of the people have no work to do. So they might as well just go there and sit down and make the noise. Okay? So you go there and find the gathering of people, and then people will tell you, oh, they have subscribers, they have followers. The followers have no job to do because they have work to do. They will be in their offices and their place of work. There's no job. So you find the 1,000 there waiting. So really, in terms of leadership, I think our leaders are technically the problem of our challenges as well. Because I would like to see leaders that, rather than waiting for the monthly goal being given to them to develop their area, to say, what is the thing that you have introduced in your municipal area? What is it that you introduce? Now, people tell you, oh, internally generated revenue, which means taxes basically, is what we have generated $1 million now. But that is taxes. What did you put in place that will bring in profit? Is there a farmland that belongs to the state, to the municipal area in Accra or wherever it is, that they're now producing something and that is being sold, that now you know that there's profit coming? Not many have that. So really, they're going in not with ideas that create revenue. They're going in with ideas to collect and collect and collect. So when our leaders really begin to become business oriented, then maybe it will add value. And when the law of the land, which means the other constitution or legal framework that you have in your country, begin to deal with situation, then we will get better. Because here you do something, somebody was giving an analogy that if the new prime minister decided to take a private plane to Ukraine, the following day, the taxpayers here will be crying that they need her out. Why will you take a private plane? You should use the public plane because you're doing a public service. While in our own continent, they will have a plane on standby. They will have 20 convoy following them who have nothing to do, because when you now carry all this convoy with you, it's only you that is requested to go and talk or to go and sign a document. But now you're having 20 entourage of almost every car having 4 people inside, security personnel, all wasting the resources because it's not your business. It's our collective business.
And finally on this, there's one writer, I've forgotten the name. So, the debate about state and, corporations, let's say the private sector, and the argument being that soon big corporations will overtake, or the power of the states will dwindle, because the power of the states is just at the shores of the borders. But corporations transcend borders. And I'm wondering if that can also happen in Africa, because in as much as the state controls everything, the private sector drives the economy.
It does.
And if the private sector is driving the economy, then surely they must have leverage over the state to be able to put the state in check.
Yes. Only that the state in Africa is still the state. There's no comparison to the power of the state. The state is the government. Back in the days, this Russian oligarch, he's heavy in oil and gas, and then he upset the state, and the state took all his possession. I don't want to mention his name. Took all his possession and then sent him to jail. At the end of his term, when a little bit with international backing, they let him go, and he moved to Germany. Now, I look at that period and say, wow, the state is powerful. Then South Africa, back then, when they now removed the president from the party, and at the same time I thought, wow, South Africa too can do like what they do in the UK. So if they remove you from being the party leader, then of course you have to leave the office, and then they now have the acting female before the arrival of the old powerful man. The state is very, very strong. I haven't seen that many private sector leaders that can fight the state anywhere. So, and definitely Africa, where, even some of the private sector players infiltrate government interests to sustain their own position in the business world. So they wouldn't do that. And almost every big player in Africa has got small skeleton in their wardrobe. So fact is, you can let the sleeping dog lie, do what you have to do. But again, if we want to now even talk about the private sector, and the private sector are actually contributing their quota according to the terms and conditions given to them to operate their business, Africa will progress. There's just too many things that we as Africans, we are not doing, which is bad. So leadership is called to question, and hopefully our leaders will see it. And those that are doing well, we celebrate them, and we say kudos for what you're doing. You can do more. And at the end of the day, I always say that for any person who is successfully running an enterprise, at the end of the year, even if it is a private sector-led company, you get bonus.
Yes.
They give you more shares.
Yeah.
You become richer because you're succeeding. So I'm not against government leaders. I'm not against state runners. who succeeded changing the life of their people that they were nominated and appointed or elected to do to get a bonus.
Yeah.
But the fact is, here, most of the time we find out that they take away almost everything. So, which means for those that are even succeeding, there's nothing left for them to even be given as bonus. Yeah.
Dr. Alistair Soyode, thank you very much
Thank you.
for coming in. I think we can do a part 2 if time permits, of course. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much.
This is why, it's important, it's imperative that we have people like you here to talk to you and also to celebrate you because what you have achieved is something that we need to celebrate. We need to make noise and give you your flowers, so to speak, while you're here.
Thank you.
You also, you don't want to be 900 plus, right? Okay. So I was actually taking that on board because a friend of mine keeps saying, "Oh, we pray for you to your 100." No, what am I going to do with 100? So
wow, we have seen people who just become vegetable,
yes,
and become a burden on the other people. So rather than me becoming a burden on you, it's better for me to accept when God wants me to go, let me go, so that at least you use your time to celebrate yourself and do something better.
I like your thinking. I think I could probably tag you as a modern African man.
I hope so.
Yes.
I hope so, because many say, no, that's not my portion. And I want to say,
yes,
when people say that is not my portion, what is your portion? Because you were not there when God wrote your life.
Yes.
So you don't know at what chapter are you going home. When you say, oh, that's not my portion, I must do this, I must do that, you don't know your portion. Your portion could be just like Jesus came and died at the age of 33.
Yes.
You will just complete the assignment that God has brought you to do in order to release the pain of another person, which you have done. So your job could have been, just finish your education and go. But you have brought something new to the family that you found yourself, who now will say, oh, we used to have so and so, we used to have so and so. Okay? So nobody knows what chapter the book of his life closes and ends. And that's why it's always good to do the best you can now. You can go to the hospital and see people who really don't even know where they are, right? But that could be, in fact, I said anything that happened to people is what God has ordained. The difference is, as you pray and pray, either in Islam and Christianity and Buddhism and Hinduism, whatever it is, and that you believe that it's sustaining you, it's actually indeed maybe reducing something that could have been worse for you than you know. But the only one that knows is the one that who created us.
Yes, absolutely. It would be good to have leaders like you back home. Dare I say it, because on the show I've said this, that when people talk about leaders, current leaders, and they talk about honesty and truth to do with politics, I'm like, very difficult to mix politics and truth, or politicians and truth in the same sentence. But I can tell you're a man of integrity.
Thank you.
And all being well, we'll catch up again.
Sure.
We'll definitely catch up again, because I'm sure there is more
Thank
we can talk about. So thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you guys for staying tuned. This is where we bring the show to a close. Thank you for sending in your text messages, for calling as well. Mr. Kofi Ali, thank you. Good morning once again. We're done for another day, all being well. We'll be back here next week, Monday. Whatever it is that you do, look after yourself. And we'll catch you up. We'll catch up on Monday. Take care. Goodbye from us.
Yo, Ghana for you what English ya brochi mai mu ha. Ya Swedi. yenya emranimfo a wen akwadare wo emranimu a poto kasa mu ye kasa a lawyer for entimi nuanom mumyemfa ye immigration nsem nyina enko dan wo Fort Well solicitors emranimu akukudro for se watna ha che ombeboa wo ma wonsa kan wo krata na se wedi edro nso a eyom kokokra eba ne nipa sitina mu ani adwuma mu nsem bia omudi mu akotene pa omo wo mre di mani pa bia na de enika wo mu poni se no consultation fee.
Fort Well Solicitors always puts our clients' needs first. We specialize in all UK visa applications, detention and deportation cases, student and work points-based work permit applications from both UK and abroad. Fort Well Solicitors